Hello and welcome to the first installment of a brand new series on the Coaster Waffle channel. This is Building a Roller Coaster for Digital Dan. Now, for those of you that don't know, Digital Dan recently announced his new competition for Project Horizon. This is a new area being developed by Alton Towers at the back of the park. Now that the competition has concluded, we are happy to share our project. The first episode is about the roller coaster itself. As you can see by the station, we have selected a Mack Multi Launch Coaster for this build. Now, alternatively, this could be an Intamin Blitz, which I think would be preferable for Alton Towers, but that's left up to the imagination. It's a multi-launch coaster. We begin by building several airtime hills out of the station, preparing for the first launch. Now, the issue with this is I forgot that it would cover the doors. This would pose some issues later, as the building itself, because obviously Project Horizon is going to be an indoor attraction of some sort, cannot be edited as per the original design created by Digital Dan. So this created a really big problem. Testing as we go, I'm quickly just double checking that the G-forces are actually legal going around this layout, so that's why you can see the occasional lines coming up from tests. The record-breaking feature on this roller coaster was going to be the most number of launches on a roller coaster, and we did in fact succeed with that, as this is the first launch of the 8 total. We weren't sure how we're going to implement these into the layout, so I really wasn't sure what speed to set this and distance, but after consulting Tom, we decided just to go with a bit of a turnaround section. Obviously there's not much space in that corner, so a little overbank turn seemed reasonable. As you can see from the footage, I'm clearly finding it hard to figure out what turn to use here. I start initially with an outer bank, but realised that was a bit stupid and bonkers, so ultimately ended with the overbank turn, as I said. So utilising the space effectively, we decided to implement a little off-axis hill just to keep the pace going. This is after the drop of the overbanked turn, which drops into quite a nice valley, which we can later use for theming and effects. The next element also gave us a bit of trouble in that corner, as Tom proposed using an Immelman or some form of custom inversion in that space just to turn us around into the next section. But I thought maybe the outer bank turn would actually be more appropriate here. Obviously with the limited space and us wanting to maximise the amount, especially with the huge track length and amount of launches we've got to fill in this layout, we really need to maximise our usage of the space. A quick test now shows me that some of the elements that we've installed weren't that smooth, so quickly go over them and smooth them. I also go over the outer bank turn again, just making sure that all the profiling is absolutely perfect. Obviously this has been entered into a competition, so that needs to be ideal. It becomes clear that this area does really need a huge amount of work to make everything smooth, obviously with there being some sketchy transitions. But as the roller coaster develops, we do put in a lot of work to make sure this is all smooth. After we've finished smoothing the overbank turn, I once again have some queries about what to put in this place. Now, first we thought maybe an inversion like a loop would be good, since we haven't had that many this far, but ultimately an airtime hill seemed more appropriate and obviously would provide more space, and with the speed decreasing it seemed more logical just to add one more airtime hill before a more energy consuming element. Here we start building a custom heartline roll. The issues with these though are the proximity to the ground at this point, and also the fact that we still have considerable speed. Therefore we decide to opt later to a different element which was more speed friendly. Next comes a turnaround portion. Initially it started as sort of a cutback or something to that vein, but ultimately I decided just to make it overbanked, not to complicate it, not to make it too forceful with there being limited space at that end. At this point I conducted a few tests and looked over a few POVs of the ride before deciding, yeah, the Heartline roll is definitely too intense and snappy at this point of the ride. So I thought, hang on, how about we raise this Heartline roll and make it more of a 0G roll sort of thing. Now, after smoothing, this eventually becomes more of a wave turn, but more on that later. I'm initially happy with the appearance of the 0G roll, but the issue was it really needed some smoothing at the base of that airtime hill and into the roll itself, because obviously the Heartline roll doesn't need as much of an entrance to it, whereas this, it became clear that the inversion was very snappy as well, and that's what made me decide to smooth it more. It's at this point that the 0G roll actually becomes the wave turn. Initially I thought it wouldn't be as good as the inversion, but actually it's grown on me and I'm very happy with how that turned out. I think with it being more of an inversion filled layout, it could have been more difficult to cooperate with, but with there being more airtime filled inversions, it was quite pleasurable to build decorations and theming around it. Now that I've completed the first launch section of the ride and I've smoothed it, I'm very happy to pass it on to Tom, who is going to build the next few launches of the ride.
Cheers, Mark. So, I started off my section by adding another launch, because to be honest, it wouldn't be a very good multi-launch coaster without multiple launches. Next up, you'll transition into a dodgy Immelman slash Sidewinder. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. It seemed like a good idea at the time. So after this element, you will go into a section of twists and turns, because who doesn't love some twists and turns? I would just like to mention that if you do enjoy this section of the video, you should definitely go and check out my series on the world's most extreme roller coasters. I would definitely say it's one of the best YouTube series I've ever seen in my life. So now, after a few test runs and some much needed smoothing of the track, it is time for the next element. I don't really know how to describe it. It's sort of like a mid-course brake run, but who doesn't love a good section of drive tyres? Coming off the end of it, there will be a cheeky pop of airtime. Now it's time to completely redo Mark's pre-launch section, because in my opinion it was a bit naff. I was on a Discord call with him at the time and I still can't fathom what he was thinking when he built that. Although in his defence, what I built here wasn't that great either, because there was a fairly small amount of space to build this in, so I can cut him a bit of slack. Anyway, back to my bit now. I will continue from the drop off the mid-course brake run. So, when we were building this ride, one of our intentions was to go for the most airtime on any roller coaster. However, to be honest, we were nowhere near. And here I just decided to build some path. Anyway, whilst absolutely nothing of note is happening in the video, make sure to smash a like and subscribe. Please, I genuinely beg. It would help the channel and our self-esteem out a lot, and you get to enjoy more of this incredible content, so it's a win-win. My Christ, I am one of the most shameless men alive, but at least I'm self-aware. Anyway, here it's time for another launch, and a badly profiled overbanked turn. I think what I did with this element was quite creative. It fit the space very nicely and I was quite happy with how it turned out. I mean, so far I would say that this roller coaster is going very well. I think looking back, if there was one thing I could have improved, I would have added a lot more airtime focused elements into my section of the ride, but overall I do think it went very well. I do think that this ride will have broken the record for the most overlapping track sections. However, it's impossible to confirm because I'm not sad enough to go and count all of them. And now it's time for some more test runs so I can make sure that this ride will not decapitate you. Because if that was the case, I doubt it would get planning permission. Here it was time to smooth certain sections of the track. I mean, this is just the definition of quality YouTube content. I mean, let me just say, there is an ungodly amount of lateral G-forces on this turn. Anyway, moving on. Here I added a heartline roll. I don't know why, but since beginning building, I just wanted to add a heartline roll. It was at this point when I didn't think that much more could be done with the track layout, so I decided to transition it back into the brake run. And this is definitely the most questionable track work that Mack Rides will have ever produced. Although somehow it's still not as bad as the Roller Coaster Corporation of America. So make of that what you will. Anyway, it is time that I hand you back over to Mark for whatever small amendments he is going to make to the roller coaster's layout.
It will all be over quicker than you expect. Welcome to Oblivion.
Anyway, you have come to the end of the video. Make sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe with the notifications bell clicked. Make sure you watch every other episode of this series exclusively on the Coaster Waffle YouTube channel. Also, whilst you're at it, make sure to watch every single other video on our channel right now! Anyways, thank you for watching.